Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to the first in a four-part webinar series designed to help clubs upskill and support you going for the BI Club Mark. Club Mark is a program designed by BI development officers to help clubs ensure they are following best practice and are sustainable. You can find more about the Club Mark on the BI website and by clicking the Club Mark section along the banner of the page, or you can email me at pcar@basketballireland.ie. So just a few housekeeping rules for today. So if you have any questions during the presentation, you can type them into the chat box and I will ask them to Nathaniel at the end. If you want to ask a question directly yourself at the end of the presentation, you can use the reaction button to put up a wave, like you should see on my camera here, and I'll ask you to unmute yourself and you can ask the question then. So just on our presenter today, so our presenter today is Nathaniel Cope, who is our Media and Communication Officer with BI. Nathaniel has worked in media for 20 years as a TV and radio broadcaster for ITV Wales, TV3, Virgin Media, Setanta, News Talk, and others. He has travelled worldwide covering soccer and rugby World Cups for SMTV, the world's largest TV news agency. He has written for the Associated Press and has done digital work consulting for rugbypass.com. He will be giving guidance on the importance of social media for your club. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Nathaniel.
Thanks very much, Paul, for that introduction. Thanks to all of you for coming to this webinar. So we'll kick it off now. Okay, well, this is on usage of social media. I hope that it's going to be useful for you as a club, as a social media manager within your club. This is to help those who are looking to achieve the Silver Club Mark, but just you in general. So firstly, why is social media important for your club? It's there to build your club's brand and reputation. It will help you to make it more attractive to sponsors. It's another avenue to showcase that sponsorship, and of course it gets information out to a wide audience, club members, volunteers and supporters. Many clubs throughout the country, we have over 220 clubs across the country, don't have websites, so social media is a great vehicle to communicate, and it has a universal reach across all avenues. In terms of Basketball Ireland, we have on Twitter 13,500 followers, and in terms of Twitter, it's more like a news information. It has limited characters, but you can paint by numbers. You can deliver more content via that. Basketball Ireland has over 26,000 followers on Facebook. That has somewhat of an older demographic. You can fit more info, and you could have things like longer reads. That obviously will really be helpful for clubs who want to communicate a longer message. There's a character limit on Twitter. So that's a really good, useful medium. And in terms of sharing articles as well, you can direct share. That's the same with Twitter, of course, as well. In terms of Instagram, Basketball Ireland have over 13,000 followers. It's a picture-led medium. It has a younger audience, and it's showing huge growth for Basketball Ireland. And when I speak to others who work in other organizations, be there federations, other sporting clubs, not just in basketball, beyond basketball, Instagram is a social channel that they often cite as the big growth vehicle for them. So they'd be the main kind of communication channels that we would like to see clubs in Ireland embrace. So if you're going out to set up a new social media account, you should try and keep the consistency, keep the same handle there. So in terms of if you have a certain naming convention that you say, if you've started off with a Facebook account and you now want to introduce a Twitter account, it's useful to have the same @ handle. So if it's at Dublin Basketball Club on Twitter, try and make that at Dublin Basketball Club on Facebook. Same with Instagram. Consistency is also useful when it comes to logos. So ideally, when it comes to your logos, you'd probably have your club crest. It's universally known. It's your brand as well, so it reinforces that brand too. If you have a senior team, this more applies to those who are competing in the National League. If it's linked to a sponsor, say for example, your team has changed its naming to incorporate that sponsor, consider how you'll brand that page to tailor, and that's another avenue. Obviously, you can change your @ handle, but there are other ways of getting around that. You can. It's another beyond the shirts to get that kind of canvas for your sponsors. You know, there's obviously your photos around your page. So speaking of that, the cover photo obviously will take due prominence, particularly on Twitter and Facebook. That'll be right at the top of your profile. So consider what you would like to project from your club. So if you're setting up that Twitter account, what do you want to project? Are you an elite level club and you want to say, look, we are an elite level club. We want to sell tickets. We want to get bums on seats when hopefully arenas will open soon enough. Are you a more community-based club? Are you trying to encourage more people to play the game from under 8s to under 14s? Do you want to have an image there of, you know, a group of kids playing basketball, or do you want to have that elite level player doing some sort of great moment, be it a slam dunk, or it could be from last season's trophy success? You might have something like that. And cover photos can be updated regularly as well, just to keep things fresh. But one note of caution, permission has to be sought for any images of minors. If you are a community-based club and your focus is to try and generate more people coming in through the doors to play basketball, more participation-based, you'll have to just consider a club policy of social media waiver from parents or guardians, that their imagery can be used in social media posts. It's quite a standard kind of procedure, but something to bear in mind that, you know, look, if your kid is going to play for the team, there might be social media posts. Do you have an issue with that? It's just something to keep in mind. But when it comes to your cover photo, you should consider that you have to have a high resolution image, because it might look great on small canvas when you're looking at it on your phone. But say if you're opening up that social media account on a laptop or a Mac or a PC or a tablet where it's a larger screen, and you don't want the pictures to get pixelated. So just try and find a high resolution image, because once again, it's your impact image. It's what you see when you open up your social media account. Is the first thing that people will see. They see your handle, you see your cover photo. So really think about your cover photo. It's a really important thing. And then in terms of, you could incorporate your club or your sponsorship brand. You know, you could maybe have your sponsor logo as part of that cover photo. There's a useful tool that I would use. It's a website called befunky.com, and that allows you to create collages, and it also allows you to help to resize pictures. One of the things that you'll have to think about when you're putting up any imagery on your social media accounts, different accounts have different sizes. For example, Instagram is 1080 by 1080. Twitter, you can go to kind of 1920 by 1080. But you just have to consider what, you know, when you're on Instagram, if you're using a 1920 by 1080, not all that image is going to fit, because you have to fit into that window of 1080 by 1080. So a website, befunky.com, it's a free website. It's really, really handy for that kind of thing. So who's in charge of your accounts? One thing we would suggest is that you should have dedicated people to run your accounts. This is to ensure that you can regulate what's going out in your feed. It's to ensure that the voice and the tone remain consistent. And you don't want a plethora of people all with control of your social media accounts, because you might have somebody posting and then you have 3 or 4 other people posting in that same window. So Twitter, yes, you know, it's a bit of a news feed, so you can it's a bit of a paint by numbers, as I mentioned before. You can put up far more tweets. But for example, if you're trying to put up crucial information, if you put a whole load of Facebook posts or Instagram posts, it ruins the algorithm and you don't get as far a reach. So it won't reach as many people that you want to get to. So just think about that. So when you're posting on Facebook, make sure it's the content you really want to share. You wouldn't I wouldn't encourage putting on 6 Facebook posts in one day, because it might not reach the desired audience that you want in the same manner as you'd wish. In terms of passwords, they should be only held by those allocated with the responsibility for social media accounts. Don't share them around willy-nilly. And if you can, best practice would be to change them every 6 months or so. So just keep that in mind. And in terms of when it comes to your social media account, you should consider, right, what's your voice and tone of your social media going to be? Is it going to be authoritative? Are you there to just convey messages? Hello, club members, we have a training session at 10 o'clock. This is when you should arrive. Or if there's, say, some COVID procedures you want your members to know about, or if you can have that kind of tone. And if there's something thematic, like say if it's Easter, or you can St. Patrick's Day or Christmas obviously coming up, and you want to have a bit of fun and just say, you can bring in some humor in there, and it can often bring up engagement as well. So, but in general, you can decide on your tone. With social media accounts, they need to be consistently updated to maintain those followers, because people will unfollow if you're trying to generate followers. That is a disaster. If you're only, say, sporadically once every fortnight, once a month, people will just disengage with that site. So then when it comes to that crucial messaging that you do want to get across, you might miss that window. So dormant pages, as I mentioned there, will be unfollowed. In terms of like when you're trying to get some sort of engagement, just think about, say, if your team is playing an opposing team, look at engagement, tag other clubs in their post, get a conversation going. And of course, when you're doing some, like we've illustrated on our social media accounts, where some people have tagged Basketball Ireland, when, particularly with COVID recently, when we've had the kids only been allowed to play outdoors, and we've shared some imagery of some clubs getting outdoors and socially distanced training, and that we retweeted that, and it's obviously a nice feel-good factor, because it's showing the resilience of people in the basketball community, that we're still out there engaged and playing basketball in whatever parameters were being put under by NGB, by Sport Ireland and the government. So when it comes to your social media content, you must be accurate and respectful in your online communication. One ill-conceived social media post can do damage to your club. You might think it's a bit of banter, or was it just a joke? But just think about it. Not everyone will find it funny, and some may be offended. Just be careful. Yeah. And in terms of liking, it's the same as well. Like if you're liking external content from other clubs or organizations, consider whether it's appropriate, because it can be seen as an endorsement. Does it match the values of your club? So just consider what you're following. And then, needless to say, any form of discrimination on any sort of social posts, and this goes without saying. Just make sure that you don't delve into that realm. Following, as with liking, just consider carefully who you follow. Are they compatible, as I mentioned, with your club and its values? And a retweet, just look at what the content is saying. That retweet could be linked to an article. That might be, make sure you read that article if it's a link to that. And then just read, listen, watch that external content before you retweet or repost. Watch that video. Take that 5 minutes to read that article, because it might be something controversial. And then another note of caution is the internet's obviously public. Even the so-called private areas of social media, it could be your direct messaging service. You might be having interactions with somebody. They can be made public. Someone can take a screen grab on their computer screen or on their phone. So just be aware of that. And a deleted post can surface. So just keep an eye on that. Of course, your social channels, you have a social responsibility, and you're projecting your club. So just you're representing your members, your volunteers, every layer. As there's obviously, when it comes to your players, when you're talking to your players, your coaches who are part of your club, it's worth having a chat with them on how they use their social media. If they have a personal account and they're quite active, just remind them of their association with that. Consider maybe suggesting that all opinions expressed are my own and not those of my club. This doesn't absolve them of responsibility, because ultimately, if they come up with some sort of ill-judged tweet, it could result in bad publicity for your club, and it will impact on your club too. Dealing with negative posts, it happens. If your club does receive negative commentary or posts, it could be worth referring to a senior member in your club. You can you could ask the person who's posted, can we deal with this in a private manner through direct messaging if they have an issue. Obviously, if it's offensive language, you could consider deleting that. But be cautious on deleting it, because it might be seen as that you have something to hide. But if it's unacceptable language, you have a social media account that's viewed by every age demographic, so you have to be conscious of that. And if somebody's being foul or abusive, and then of course, if you're getting something that's deemed as harassment, could be defamatory or breach of the law, just go to the police. Don't hesitate on that. But just in terms of negative commentary in general, just if you have an issue, or somebody has an issue with your club or something that they want to get resolved, direct them to maybe your email or to a direct message on your social account. So just in general, kind of a mantra would be, when you're posting, a good way of looking at things is pause before you publish. Just take that time. You've drafted that tweet, you've drafted that Facebook post, you've drafted that caption underneath that Instagram, or it even could be an image on Instagram. Think about it. Just take that few seconds. Read, reread. And the other thing is, if it doesn't look right, rewrite it or delete it. Because once it's out there, like when it comes to Twitter, you cannot adjust something. Once it's out there, you either have to delete it and redo a tweet. With Instagram, you can tweak it. However, as I mentioned in the previous slide, there are screen grabs that can be taken. So, the horse may have already bolted on that side of things. So just whatever you post, be cautious. Like, you shouldn't be intimidated by social media, but just have a think about what you're posting. It'll just dig you out of a hole potentially that you don't necessarily need to be in. Goes without saying, you should adhere to libel laws in your various countries, in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, whatever they are in each jurisdiction. Expressions of opinion can lead to a defamation case, and also, as I mentioned about the retweeting. So if you retweet a defamatory tweet, it's like you issued that same tweet yourself. It's like you wrote it yourself. So just bear that in mind. You don't want to land yourself into any sort of difficulty. Now, when you're doing your content, obviously you want to have some dynamism. You might want to put on some music on there. But you have to be conscious that musicians want to get paid, and that music may be subject to royalty payments. There are royalty-free music websites. Search for them. No clubs wants an unnecessary bill over a Twitter post or a YouTube video or an IGTV video. So just bear that in mind. There are royalty-free music websites. Just search them out. In terms of photos, imagery is also subject to copyright. Photographers need to earn a living, so we need to keep that in mind. And if you are going to use an image, make sure it's rights free or is being pre-sanctioned for use. If you are using somebody photographer maybe seek, do you mind if I use this image? I will obviously acknowledge it's coming from you and put in their @handle. For example, recently we did a club focus, and there was a photographer who photographs a lot of EJ Sligo All-Stars matches, and Sligo All-Stars passed on their photos and we credited them. And as obviously it's good exposure for that photographer as well. And then in terms of continuing on with that copyright, when it comes to video, broadcasters pay for rights. So unless you paid for it or been pre-authorized to republish, don't use. Broadcasters and rights holders will strike off video footage, so it will be struck off. It's not great practice, because you don't want broadcasters to get cheesed off with your club, I guess. User-generated content, there's a lot of this content going around. Everyone's got a mobile phone these days. It's very easy to make content, viral content. As with the photos, just seek permission from the original publisher before publishing. Just say, look, do you mind if I republish? And you could offer that you would give the credit to where it was sourced. And then with regards to the content, it's worth bearing in mind, you should probably consider verification. Is the footage legitimate? Because you just need to be careful on that side of things. GDPR, I'm not going to dwell too much on that. I did mention that earlier on when it came to images of minors. It's there to protect people's privacy. That's what GDPR is there for. So don't publish someone's contact details or personal information on your platform. Like, don't be putting dates of birth, address details, that could see minors identified, for example. Just be cautious. If you do have GDPR questions, we have a GDPR representative within Basketball Ireland, Rory Wall, and he can be contacted in rwall@basketballireland.ie. So if you have any sort of queries that you're wondering about, he's a great source of knowledge and an expert in the field. As I mentioned, permission must be granted for the publication of still or video images of minors. This includes streaming. So if you're streaming an underage match, you have to take that into consideration. Seek permission from parents or guardians. The same goes with post-match interview clips. If you're putting up an interview with the boy or girl who has scored 30 points and who's one player of the match, consider that has permission being sought from the parent or guardian, because are they comfortable being interviewed for your social channels? Are they comfortable with being on your social channels? So just keep that in mind. And finally, needless to say, confidential information, about a club, your league, your governing body, or other stakeholders, associated partners within the game, such as sponsors, must not be published. And this comes under contractual obligations. You will, if you breach those, organizations such as sponsors and media will stop doing business with your club, our league or governing body, and it just hurts the game in general. So just that's a bit of an obvious one, but it's just worth bearing in mind. And when it comes to legal disputes, social media commentary must be avoided prior or during any active dispute or court proceeding due to risk of prejudice. Your club, and that's it, I mentioned about the players as well, coaching staff, anyone who's involved directly with your club, they shouldn't be engaging in commentary over legal things, be it on or off court. Like, for example, we had the situation with the Anna Creagle case where there were 10 people in court recently for allegedly posting the identity of those convicted over her death. Now, it's obviously not basketball related, but if it was one of your basketball players who was our coaches or something like that, somebody who within that basketball community that is affiliated with your club, it will obviously reflect badly on you. So it's just worth bearing in mind if you are talking to your players before a training session, or just in general, just to keep that in mind. And then look, this we've been talking about. This is the looking towards your silver club mark, and then of course, you know, if you want to go for gold, that level 3, there are step-by-step instructions on how to set up Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You know, from its very inception. So it is a real how-to guide. So it's very useful. So it's there. That facility is there for all clubs, even if you're not ready at this present time to go for Club Mark, but you're thinking about setting up an extra social media page. That's there on the Club Mark page. And there are lots of useful resources on the Club Mark page, and I'd encourage you to peruse those. So that therein ends my presentation. So I'll hand back to Paul there.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Nathaniel. And just as Nathaniel said there, we have resources on our Club Mark page, including on the Silver Club Mark, how to create a social media policy, and then on the Gold, obviously, the how-to guides. Just before I stop recording and hand over to anyone who has any questions, just to let you know, we have some other webinars coming up. So this Thursday at 8 p.m, we have Niall Berry, our development officer. We'll be talking about creating a player pathway within your club. Next Monday, then we have at 8 p.m. again, we have Rory Wall and Matt Hall, who'll be talking about coach licensing and guard vetting and safeguarding. And then on the next Thursday at 8 p.m, we have Conor Meany, who'll be talking about securing sponsorship and funding.